My name is Haley Rivera, and I chose Chapter 2, Derailing the Great Migration. The year of this chapter began in 1918 in southern Georgia. Being an African American was the last thing a nativist liked. Equal rights was all an African American wanted. Towards the end of the chapter, the setting changes from south to north in hopes of African Americans finding better jobs, education, and most of all, equal treatment. Important people I came across the chapter were Hampton Smith, who was a 31-year-old white plantation owner, well known for being the brutalist person towards African Americans. Sidney Johnson, an African American who was given an unforgettable and unforgivable thrashing by Hampton Smith. Sidney also shot Hampton as revenge. Mary Turner, a pregnant African American who was brutally murdered because she threatened the white lynchers she would get all of them arrested for murdering her husband, who did absolutely nothing in the Hampton Smith murder. Lastly, Dr. Hossein Sweet, an African American doctor who lived in a well known white neighborhood with non degreed neighbors, yet still known as the rich area in Detroit. The Rage. The first rage began when the killing of Hampton Smith happened. It caused for a mob of lynchers to form. The white lynchers gathered a group of 10 African Americans and began to brutally murder them or mistreat them. The second rage was when African Americans were able to move north and started to settle in it and caused rage to the whites who were already living there. Rocks were being thrown out the windows to scare them to move out. The Sweets were taken to trial for a shooting. Dr. Sweet and his family had shot one of the white people who were throwing rocks at his window as an act of self defense. The trial went to court and eventually they lost the case. Dr. Sweet lost his home and later committed suicide and relocated to a smaller apartment. Derailment to the north. While African Americans were trying to migrate to the north, many of them had little to no chances of going because anyone found with a train ticket got their ticket automatically torn and ripped from their hand. Some made it on the train without a problem, still with fearing thoughts, but to the north they arrived. Some who made it to the north had to sneak that they were planning to migrate. They would even leave without their last paycheck to be able to get a chance to migrate to the north. Overall, the argument of this chapter was that no matter where the location was, any African American was not promised a safe environment. Even after the 13th Amendment was passed, there was still a hard time for African Americans to be treated as equal. The ones who lost were really the African Americans, no matter how many gruesome crimes were committed by the nativists.